back to Block TV. Now, even though half of the world's population is in lockdown right now, they say the show must go on, and that we will do. And joining us is Tone Vays, a crypto analyst and content creator. Tone Vays, thanks for joining us.
Hey guys, glad to be back on the show. And yes, in quarantine myself, but it's good. It's good. It gets me to get back into trading. There's nothing better to do.
I hear that. Well, now that all we have to do is to trade, let's talk about trading. Right now, the government, U.S. government that is printing endless money. They handed out $2.2 trillion, or at least they're attempting to. It's a shit show. But the traditional markets are all over the place. There's a Bitcoin halving coming up, which is cutting supply. Shouldn't this be the perfect situation for Bitcoin? I mean, the one that we've been pitching and speaking about ever since its creation. Why is Bitcoin not at an all-time high?
So I believe this is a great situation for Bitcoin, but what makes it great is that people are starting to get very scared of Bitcoin. Even those that were big bulls on Bitcoin last year while I was a bear, they're starting to get very, very nervous. And they think that the global economy is going to go down, and this will have bad effects on Bitcoin. The halving is coming, and Bitcoin is sitting here at depressed prices under $7,000, and that is scaring a lot of people. If Bitcoin is sitting at 6,000 after the halving, a lot of those people are going to think Bitcoin is dead. It can't recover. If mining's not profitable, everything is going to collapse. And these are the environments that basically make Bitcoin so resilient. I remember similar things back in early 2017 when Bitcoin was breaking that $1,000 barrier and everyone was scared of the upcoming split. Everyone was scared how the regulators were shutting down Chinese exchanges. Bitmain decided to go with big blocks. The ETF got rejected. All these bad news, all this bad news was coming, and Bitcoin was just resilient and kept going higher. And that's exactly what I'm expecting. And the more people around me that are bearish, the more bullish I start to get.
Mm-hmm. Now, but do you believe, in the face of how Bitcoin has reacted to kind of this traditional market vitality, do you believe that Bitcoin is keeping its title as a safe haven asset, as a digital gold?
I think that right now in this environment, Bitcoin has mentally, for most people, lost that safe haven status. Those that kept promoting Bitcoin as a safe haven, they kind of, have a little bit of an egg on their face right now because Bitcoin crashed over 50% while stocks only fell 30%. And at the same time, gold went up. So that allowed all of those gold promoters that hate Bitcoin to kind of stand on a pedestal there for a minute. And once again, this goes into the idea that Bitcoin, you can't put Bitcoin in a little box. Sometimes it acts as a safe haven, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a hedge against inflation, sometimes it's not. So Bitcoin is its own asset, and it does have its own ecosystem, and it does behave on its own, though in some stretches, it will behave like a private asset. So when people are losing their jobs and the stock market is crashing, Bitcoin will probably crash too. But the difference right now going into the second half of the year is that Bitcoin had its capitulation. And while I do believe Bitcoin is correlated with the stock market, up to now, it had a much higher beta, which means that Bitcoin fell a lot more while the S&P 500 and other private assets were also falling. I think that is now going to change. I don't see Bitcoin falling more at this point. While I do think the stock market has a potential lower low to go, I believe Bitcoin's low is already in. And Bitcoin can still fall a little bit, but not much. And this is the time to accumulate while everyone else is scared and running out of money to do so.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's take a look at the charts and see more of the technical analysts about how Bitcoin's doing right now.
Sure. So here's the one chart I'm just going to pull up, and it's the one I've been watching ever since I got this 9 on the TD sequential indicator, which is one of my favorite indicators to trade. But what's more important than this indicator is the chart pattern itself. And one of my favorite chart patterns is evolving right now, and that is this daily ascending triangle. and it's pretty much almost written in stone. I just need one more little pullback, and I believe it's coming this week. I think the stock market is not recovered yet. I think the stock market is still going to have 1 or 2 bad weeks. I don't know if the stock market will or won't make a new low. But I've been saying for a while, ever since this low came in at 3,800, that we're not going to go below it. Last week, I was saying we're not going to go below 5,800 when we started to fall on April 1st. And now I'm pretty convinced Bitcoin will not go below 6,100. I'm a pretty big bull here. I've been saying all week, we're not ready to break out to above 7,000 yet, but maybe in about a week or two. And this is what I'm watching to finally get us out. We still have some resistance here in the $8,000 with all these moving averages, and that could be a tough breakout. There is always a possibility Bitcoin will test the lows in the 5,000 range one more time, but I think that is a very dangerous assumption to stay away from Bitcoin at this time. So for the first time in 2 years, after being a bear for 95% of the time since the second week of January of 2018, I can't see myself being other than a 95% bull for the next 3 to 4 years. This is what I've pretty much been waiting for, this final capitulation that, took out some hedge funds. Unfortunately, even my friends were involved in that. But this is how markets bottom. This is how it eventually ends for the bear market, and the bull market begins while most people are scared to get in.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned that bottom, and you think we're at that bottom. When we actually hit that bottom, a lot of exchanges, Coinbase being one of them, saw record buyings, record volumes in the kind of retail buying the dip. Were you part of buying the dip? I mean, you're very bullish. I know you probably were in on that. But if this was the bottom, is this hodlers, just buying the dip like they're saying, or is this newcomers, newbies who see an opportunity here to make some money?
No, I still see it as current people getting in. I think it's going to be hard for new people to come in. This is the opportunity to buy for those that have not gotten wrecked and that have been a lot more careful throughout the bear market. The new wave of people will probably come in sometime late this year or early next year when we're already above $10,000. And the majority of new people are going to come in when we're pushing 18, 19,000 on Bitcoin. That may not happen until the end of 2021 or even into 2022. The majority of people find out about an asset, especially a new asset or an asset they've given up on. They only find out about it when it's pushing new all-time highs. That's when it's on TV. This is why I'm not fully bullish gold right now, but I become fully bullish on gold when gold breaks $1,800, because then it gets dangerously close to the new all-time high. And that's when it hits all over the news how gold is breaking out, and everyone will feel like they're missing out. It will be the same thing for Bitcoin. All new people are going to show up when Bitcoin is above 17, 18,000, approaching that all-time high.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you think that BCH's and BSV's upcoming halvings will have any effect on Bitcoin's price, Bitcoin's network? Some are saying that after those halvings, miners are going to be switching over to Bitcoin itself.
Well, BSV is totally irrelevant, so that's not going to have any effect on anything. Calvin Ayre, basically one of the two kings of BSV, just replied to one of my tweets yesterday, and it has 4 likes. That's how bad it's gotten for BSV over there. BCH still, has a community. It still has, people promoting it for God knows what reason. I just read the article that they're letting go half of their staff at Bitcoin.com exchange. It's all falling apart for them as well. And the BCH has about 3 to 4% of hash power that should be on Bitcoin. If half that hash power or 40% of that hash power comes over to Bitcoin, I mean, it will increase Bitcoin's hash power by 1 or 2 percentage points. It's not that much, but again, this is where Bitcoin shines. This is why all other proof of work coins will ultimately die in a mining death spiral, because when those coins can't keep up with the value increase, when Litecoin can't double in price every 4 years consistently, it will just pretty much die. No one will ever invest in any Litecoin mining. No one will ever invest in any innovation. Why would you invest in a mining farm for script if it can't even keep up with doubling the price over a 4-year span? Bitcoin Cash has the same exact mining technology as Bitcoin, so they're not going to be as bad as something like Litecoin or Ethereum, which actually requires new technology. But over time, it'll still go away because they're just insecure inflation on top of Bitcoin, and they won't work. So sooner or later, all that hash power will come to Bitcoin. It's not going to make that much of a difference, but but I also run a single miner at home. How much of a difference does that make? But I like supporting the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Now, has there been any other cryptocurrencies that surprised you in how well they performed, even after this economic downturn, whether it be proof of work or proof of stake or other?
Monero is still performing out there. Bitcoin still hasn't gotten the reputation that its transactions are fungible and private enough. We need better second layer solutions for that. Lightning has not really been that much needed. I've been saying for over a year now, Bitcoin transactions have been very cheap, very fast, and therefore there's really isn't much of a need for the Lightning Network. But the Lightning Network is getting stronger and it's slowly becoming more and more popular. And when that adoption comes, probably in a year or two, everyone will be happy that Lightning is here. Lightning will have better privacy. The latest changes in Bitcoins will give you privacy. But for now, as the world is watching, governments get more and more stingy on tracking every payment. Monero had some life in it recently. Again, enjoy the speculation while it lasts, but eventually Bitcoin will have those features. And a lawsuit just came out the other day against a lot of these utility tokens. I've always been a critic of utility tokens. I always found it to be a very sleazy practice of saying that we need this utility token. Binance, for example, is calling itself a utility token, even though for 400 years exchanges managed to function without a utility token. Lawsuit just came out. Binance was named as well. And a lot of these things will just become securities. They're performing right now on these unregulated exchanges, but give it another 3 years and that won't be the case. Binance token will be a security. It will only be allowed to trade on exchanges that are licensed to trade securities, and unregulated trading of these tokens will not exist. I don't know if that's good or bad for the token, but it'll be different, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, while we're on the topic of Binance, I want to know, what's your take on Binance reportedly buying Coinmarketcap?
So I'm not surprised. A lot of these, like Tron as well and Justin Sun, they're like buying everything up. A company like Coinmarketcap, I mean, they were running a very, they were running a good business. They never had an ICO coin. They built it from scratch, and it's a good advertising platform, and it's the most popular way to look at all these altcoins. Something like Binance comes along that just prints their own BNB token. They claim it's money. They claim it's a utility token. They claim it's everything. So they have a lot of money to throw around, and maybe they'll buy Bitcoin.com one of these days. Same thing with Ripple. You print 100 billion Ripple tokens, and you have a lot of money to throw around. You can pay Bill Clinton to speak at your events and hire the former head of the SEC to represent you in a lawsuit that you're actually a security. So when you have a lot of money to throw around, you're going to buy these things. What does it mean going forward? I don't know. I look at these list of altcoins less and less because I think they're becoming less and less irrelevant, or less and less relevant, I should say. So I don't go to Coinmarketcap as often as I used to. And they have a lot of competitors now, but I don't really go to them as well. I don't think that website is going to keep its ranking. I think over time, people are going to stop looking at these altcoins because that casino is going to end. All these exchanges that are trading them, they're unregulated, but they're not decentralized. So eventually all that will be regulated and it'll all go away.
Well, I see clearly you like speaking about Bitcoin. So let's finish this off with a Bitcoin question. No one knows when all this craziness will end. But one thing's for certain, it probably won't be over by mid-May, which is when the Bitcoin halving is supposed to happen. So give me your price prediction for Bitcoin at time of halving.
Bitcoin price prediction at time of halving. Oh, that's a good one. I'm going to say probably close to $8,000.
Right, close to $8,000. Thank you so much, Tone Vays, for joining us even in these wild and wacky times. Stay safe out there. And for all our viewers at home, if you want more on blockchain technology and crypto news, make sure to check us out at BLOCKTV.com.
Watch us on Amazon Fire TV and Roku.